My MLB betting guide is available over on Amazon, also in PDF form at bangthebook.com. Like I said, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, full shows. Bettor's Box Thursday, no show Friday. Same format coming up next week with March Madness. I'll try to get the Bettor's Box out bright and early on Thursday so it doesn't interfere with watching the NCAA tournament. But of course, as we know, baseball season still a few weeks away here, so it's not like you have to listen to that right away next Thursday. But also over at the website, my conference tournament previews. I think I've got 20 of those posted now. 4 more are written. I'm just waiting on odds. Got 8 more left to do here to cover all 32 conference tournaments. We'll also be doing some March Madness game previews for next week and throughout the tournament as well, so keep an eye out for that, as well as the usual stuff, NHL, NBA, XFL, NASCAR, soccer, tennis, golf, so on and so forth. You name it, we got it over at bangthebook.com. Once again, if you want to subscribe to the notes for the Bettor's Box MLB betting podcast segments, Adam at bangthebook.com will get you on the list for those. And Adam at bangthebook.com to get on the list for the Bettor's Box notes. And for right now, just sending Thursday and Monday together on Mondays just seems to make sense with just spring training going on. And of course, a lot of this information you can get in my 2020 MLB betting guide. All right, here we go. 5 and Fly segment here for the National League West. And we start with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Their season win total here, 83.5. And this one is on the rise right now. The juice is on the over here for the Diamondbacks. Not any higher than 83.5 across most of the market. But this is a team that people are starting to like a little bit here as they start to lock in some of their MLB season win total bets. And look, I really, really like this team. I love the front 4 in the starting rotation. You've got Madison Bumgarner, obviously very familiar with the teams in the National League West division, having pitched for so long with the San Francisco Giants. You've got Robbie Ray. You've got Luke Weaver, and then you've also got Zach Gallen. And for Weaver here last year, it looked like he was starting to break out. He was throwing more cutters, throwing more sliders, things that stay off the barrel, things that stay out of the high nitro zone areas. Then he got hurt. He was limited to, I believe it was 12 starts last year. I like what I saw. And obviously you want to take it with a grain of salt when a guy doesn't sustain it over the course of the season. But I think Luke Weaver is a high upside guy. I think Madison Bumgarner is a very reliable starting pitcher, a 200-inning guy, a guy that kind of replaces a Zach Greinke type, just obviously from the left side as opposed to the right side. Robbie Ray last year. Robbie Ray is a guy that last season had the second highest swinging percentage of his career, but had the worst slider of his career using the Fangraphs pitch runs metric. So he didn't even have really his best swing and miss pitch, still generated a lot of swings and misses. I think that's a guy that could end up having a career year. And in particular here, Robbie Ray, a guy that has a lot of issues with the long ball, has a lot of issues with home runs. If the baseball is different this year, and that is certainly the expectation that a lot of us are currently running with, well, maybe this is a career year for Robbie Ray. So you've got Luke Weaver, maybe in line for a career year. You've got Robbie Ray, a guy that has a lot of upside here as far as I'm concerned for this season. And then you've got Zach Gallen. And I love Zach Gallen. I think Zach Gallen, if you find a futures price 100, 150 to 1 or higher to win the Cy Young, I kind of like him as a little bit of a dark horse. This is a guy that's got great swing and miss stuff, great stuff to stay off the barrel, very good in terms of contact quality against. And the Diamondbacks could have the best defensive team in all of Major League Baseball this year. So I love this front 4 in the rotation. I'm not high on Mike Leake. Nobody's high on Mike Leake, but you've got John Duplantier, who should be up soon. Alex Young is a guy that I really liked from last year. He induced a lot of weak contact, a guy that can pitch to this really, really good defense. So there's not a ton of depth here for the Diamondbacks, but they will be developing it as the season goes along. They also picked up J.B. Bukauskas in that Zach Greinke deal with the Houston Astros. That's a guy with some upside as well. So I like where this Diamondbacks team is situated in the starting rotation, and I love how good they are defensively. Now, offensively, look, I think this could be a league average lineup. I will go ahead and say that right up front. I think Ketel Marte is a guy that will regress a little bit here, but Ketel Marte last year, a launch angle disciple, started hitting the ball higher, started hitting the ball better in terms of launch angle for slugging percentage purposes, and he has an elite contact rate. Only a 7.4% swinging strike percentage last year. That's very, very good. When you make quality contact, and he's in the upper half in terms of exit velocity and hard hit percentage, when you make quality contact and you make a lot of it, that's really important. So Marte is a guy that I don't think matches last season's numbers, but I do think he does have a very, very good season. They had Starling Marte now in center field. They moved Ketel Marte back to second base here. So that improves them defensively as well. Starling Marte, a very, very good outfielder, a 20 home run caliber guy. They still have Eduardo Escobar. David Peralta's a very good hitter, at least against right-handed pitching. Christian Walker had a breakout season last year. I like the addition of Cole Calhoun. He's got a plus arm and some pretty good power. I like this Diamondbacks team a lot. Now, obviously, the concern is that last year they overachieved by a large margin, but I do think this year's team is better. I think this year's team is better equipped. And again, a team that has a cohesive vision across the organization with an analytically savvy GM like Mike Hazen, a guy in Torey Lovullo that was in the Indians organization, that also in the Red Sox organization. They've got that analytics buy-in across the board here. The one worry for me is the bullpen. Archie Bradley was good in the second half, bad in the first half, but I like Junior Guerra. I like Hector Rondon. I like what they're able to do from a development standpoint with some of these back-end relievers like a Yohan Lopez or a Kevin Ginkel. The Diamondbacks are an over team to me here, over 83.5. Played it already. The juice is getting a little bit high now, but I do like this Arizona team quite a bit in the National League West. The Colorado Rockies here, their season win total 73.5. And, I don't really like to get invested in teams that are very top-heavy because, look, they've got Nolan Arenado, they've got Trevor Story, they've got Herman Marquez. They don't have much else. John Gray is a pretty good starting pitcher as well, but they don't have a whole lot more than that. And this is a core group, if we throw Charlie Blackmon in there as well, who's a very good hitter, but a horrible outfielder. They have a group that's capable of carrying them to being pretty decent. And obviously we've seen that a couple times here over the last few years for the Rockies. Now, on the other hand, Arenado and Story were terrific last year, and this was a terrible team last season. So you've got a lot of worries here about this Rockies bunch. And, of course, they did nothing of consequence one way or the other this offseason, except for pissing off Nolan Arenado, which is never a good idea. 26th in weighted runs created plus last year. And again, keep in mind, this is a team that, based on the traditional metrics, was a lot better offensively than most of the teams in the league. They were very good in batting average, high slugging percentage, of course. But again, WRC plus adjusted for park factor. And you obviously have to take into account what Coors Field means to hitting the baseball. Now, what I think WRC plus fails at is understanding the opposite of the Coors Field effect, where on the road, they're pitched differently. They see breaking balls a lot differently than they see at home, because in the thin air, there's less resistance on the baseball. And resistance on the baseball is what creates spin. So pitches that are going to stay flat, cement mixer hanging sliders are going to get hit a long way at home. Those pitches on the road maybe slide off the barrel or maybe become swings and misses. And that's true of fastballs. That's true of breaking balls. That's true of everything. So the Rockies, they hit well at home and they don't hit as well on the road because it's just a different hitting atmosphere for them when they're away from home. I don't think WRC plus and some of the other metrics that are out there accurately convey that sentiment. So I don't think the Rockies were a bottom 5 offense last year, but bottom 10, most definitely. And I don't think anything really changes for them here this season unless something happens and Arenado or Story get hurt. And that is a very real possibility. David Dahl, also a guy that hit very well last year. He's battled a ton of injuries. So there's not a lot of upside for this Rockies offense. We know Arenado is good. We know Story is good. The only things that can happen for them are negatives in the event that those guys get hurt. Now, this pitching staff, obviously, they take a beating at home, as we know. Marquez is a guy with substantial home road splits. Last year, just because of the way that things worked out for him, he was able to throw 27 1/3 more innings on the road than at home. So his numbers were skewed a little bit. He probably looked a little bit better than he actually was because that's a guy that got to pitch more on the road than at home. It was the same thing in 2018. If that all of the sudden flips based on when his turn arrives in the rotation, that could be really problematic for him. So I think that's a guy that I look at with a little bit lower of a ceiling, depending, of course, on how his starts fall. John Gray is fine. He was a positive regression guy. He pitched pretty well last year. But beyond that, what do we get from this Rockies starting rotation? What do we get from Kyle Freeland? What do we get from these pitch-to-contact guys like Antonio Senzatella, like Jeff Hoffman, like some of the other guys that they have? They don't have a lot of upside. They don't have a lot of ceiling. They don't have a lot of guys that miss bats. And to me, that is the only thing I want out of my starting pitchers in Colorado, is to miss bats, is to have a greater margin for error, and they don't have those guys. So for the Rockies here, I worry quite a bit about them. $150 million payroll, which is why they were trying to find somebody to trade with for Nolan Arenado. Is Bud Black on the hot seat? He could be. It's not his fault that this team isn't very good. The organization is very messy as well. Again, that overall lack of organizational cohesiveness is something that can really lower a ceiling for a team. I don't think the Rockies have a high ceiling. I would have to go under with them, if anything. But with a season win total here of 73.5, very hard to really like going under that total because, again, they will be very good offensively at home. The Los Angeles Dodgers here, their season win total 101.5. This is a team that could very well have the best Pythagorean win-loss record ever. Now, I don't think that they beat the 2001 Mariners with 116 wins or match the 98 Yankees with 114 wins, anything like that. But this is a team that probably will have very high win totals in their alternate standings metrics of Pythagorean win-loss, base runs, and third-order win percentage. Look, last year, this is a Dodgers team that outscored the opposition by 273 runs, and they're better this year. They've got Mookie Betts. They've got even more pitching depth with a guy like Alex Wood now back, with a guy like Dustin May having graduated to the major leagues, with a guy like Clayton Kershaw now back in his Cy Young form. I think Walker Buehler's the guy that will win one. David Price looks really, really sharp here in spring training so far. That's a big deal for the Dodgers, who do have to replace innings from Hyun-Jin Ryu and Kenta Maeda. And if they can do that with David Price and Alex Wood and Dustin May, and some of the other guys that they have, maybe Julio Urias is a guy that does that. This is an elite pitching staff with an elite offense. They were the best defensive team in baseball last year by defensive runs saved. There are no flaws on this Dodgers team. There just aren't any. This is an elite baseball team, and they are deep across the board. They've got Betts and Cody Bellinger, who are probably second and third behind Mike Trout in terms of best position players in baseball. And they're on the same damn team. Max Muncy can hit. Justin Turner can hit. Jock Peterson's a great platoon bat. My God, Enrique Hernandez can hit. AJ Pollock probably going to be in a platoon situation with Jock Peterson. Corey Seager can play. They still have Gavin Lux. This team is loaded to the gills. They are absolutely incredible. Their pitching staff is almost as good as the lineup. And this bullpen, one of the nice things, one of the luxuries of having a lot of starting pitching depth is that guys that don't make the rotation, like a Urias, like a Tony Gonsolin, like a Dustin May, like a Dennis Santana, you can put those guys in the bullpen. And the reason that guys don't make it as starters is generally because they don't have a third pitch that's really good, or maybe they've got some iffy command, something like that. Those guys work in short bursts now. They only have to throw two pitches, show that third every now and then, just have good command for an inning or two, as opposed to stretching it out over 5 or 6 innings. So this bullpen should be really good too. They pick up Blake Treinen, who I think is a bounce back candidate in his own right. Kenley Jansen will probably be a little bit better. I think Caleb Ferguson could be better. They've got guys like Adam Kolarek. This is a team without flaws, man. They're a dominant baseball team. If you look at their base runs record last year, 110 wins. They were plus 286 in run differential. By third order win percentage, they won 114 games. They're 51-25 against the teams in the division. I don't think any of that changes. They've got Mookie Betts now. They've got better pitching depth now. Well, why does this team get any worse? I don't think that they do. Now they've got some platoon players on the bench, like I mentioned already, and all that depth, man. And look, when you talk in the context of WRC plus, again, weighted runs created plus, which is park adjusted, league adjusted, and it's adjusted for the run environment in Major League Baseball. Last year, the Houston Astros had a 125 WRC plus. They were 25% better than league average. The all-time leader in WRC plus is the 1927 New York Yankees. They had a 126 WRC plus. By weighted runs created plus, I think that the Los Angeles Dodgers will be the best offense ever in the history of Major League Baseball. Ever. By WRC plus. Again, keep in mind, they're not going to post WOBA numbers or anything like that, like the 27 Yankees, because teams only struck out, 9-10% of the time back then. That obviously doesn't happen anymore. Teams, even your best teams, strike out 18% of the time. But I do think with WRC plus, which is park, league, and run environment adjusted, I think the Dodgers could have the best offense ever in Major League Baseball. So obviously the over is the play here. And in fact, even though as a general rule, I tend to stay away from the extremes, I may end up playing this Dodgers over, especially with them staying healthy through spring training and David Price looking pretty good in the process. Let's go to the San Diego Padres here. Season win total 83.5. And look, if you want a strong opinion on the San Diego Padres, you're going to have to look somewhere else. I think this team could win 70. I think they could win 90. I don't know where they fall. To me, this is the single highest variance team in Major League Baseball. How do the kids do? How do the kids develop? Fernando Tatis over a full season could be elite, could be a top 10 player in Major League Baseball. What about everybody else? They add Tommy Pham, who I really, really like. Tommy Pham hits the ball violently hard. A very, very good addition for this Padres team. Last year, played with a partially torn UCL. Says he's fine now. Could be very, very good. Manny Machado, a down year last year for him. And also his contact metrics were down. Among the lowest in the StatCast era for him in terms of exit velocity and hard hit percentage. What about the rest of this lineup? We know Eric Hosmer's not a good hitter. We know that we could get growth from Francisco Mejia, from Franchy Cordero. We could get that Machado bounce back that I mentioned already. Tatis and Pham should be just fine. What about the rest of this lineup, though? I think there are a lot of questions outside of the top guys in this lineup. So I don't know what exactly the ceiling is offensively here for the San Diego Padres. And when you talk about a team that's got a win total in the mid-80s, I mentioned the Diamondbacks could be a league average offense, but I love their pitching staff. I like them over the total. You can have one league average unit, whether it's the offense or the pitching, but the other side needs to make up for it. And I don't know where this Padres team falls. I think offensively, they could be league average. If Tatis, Pham, and Machado are all really good, and maybe they get some other contributions from some of the other guys. Like a Trent Grisham, for example, who's always carried a high on-base percentage at all of his stops. But I also don't know where this pitching staff falls. Now, I will say this. I'm a lot more optimistic about the pitching staff than I am about the offense. Because you've got a loaded bullpen. I mean, this bullpen is the best in baseball. With Kirby Yates, Emilio Pagan, Drew Pomerantz, Matt Strahm. I love this bullpen. This is the best bullpen in baseball to me. Maybe the Rays could be a little bit better. They're 1 and 2, probably 1A and 1B, I would say, in the lead up to the season here. What about this rotation, though? Everyone's going to look at Chris Paddock and say that Chris Paddock is the breakout guy, and maybe he is. The guy I'm going to try to bet on a lot early on in the season is Joey Lucchesi. Last year, Joey Lucchesi shaved more than 6% off of his home run per fly ball percentage with the biggest power surge season we've ever seen. His barrel percentage was down. His hard hit percentage was down. So his command took a big leap in a season in which a lot of guys fell off of the command train. I like Joey Lucchesi a lot. He's a guy that I have circled this season as a breakout type of candidate. Now, Chris Paddock could obviously be very good. Chris Paddock needs to develop a third pitch. I'm sure that's what he worked on all offseason long. Should be very good. Good command guy, good swing and miss guy. They've got a lot of pieces and parts to work with here. Dinelson Lamet, a guy that misses bats, a guy that comes back now. And again, it's always important to look at guys like Lamet because last season, Lamet was rehabbing. This season, Lamet was preparing. There's a big difference between rehabbing in preparation for a season and getting ready for a season while healthy. So Lamet could be a breakout guy himself. We'll see how long Garrett Richards is able to stay healthy. He's always got very good stuff, heavy sinker, good slider. But the thing about the Padres is the future is coming quick. Mackenzie Gore, Adrian Morjon, Luis Patino, Michael Baez. They've got prospect arms with massive ceilings coming up here at some point this season. That elevates this starting staff a lot potentially after the All-Star break. So this is a team that could get off to a slow start and eventually wind up surpassing their expectations. They are a team I will look at the All-Star break to see if I want to take an adjusted season win total over. Jace Tingler, the new manager, a bilingual guy, a metrics guy. Again, that cohesive vision throughout the organization. The Padres could be really good. They could also fall short of expectations. I don't know. I'd lean under with them because I'm not quite sure that they're there yet, but I have no interest in betting the Padres season win total at all here for this season. Finally, in the National League West here, the San Francisco Giants, their season win total 69.5, and this one is heavily juiced to the under, and this one was a bet for me. I did bet the Giants under 69.5 here. They go from Bruce Bochy to Gabe Kapler, and this is a dramatic change. You're talking about a respected veteran guy in Bruce Bochy. Now you go to Gabe Kapler, a younger guy, a new school guy, a metrics guy, a fitness freak. How does this veteran-laden team respond to a guy like Gabe Kapler? I don't think it goes particularly well because you've got a lot of guys that are very set in their ways, a lot of long-time Major League Baseball veterans here on this team. I don't know if they respect Gabe Kapler. I don't know if this permeates the entire Major League roster. They're trying to go all in with analytics. They've got Farhan Zaidi, who's running things for them from the Dodgers, from an MIT, Ivy League background. They're going all in with analytics. So I understand the Kapler hire. I just think that you've got a lot of round pegs here in this lineup and a lot of square holes. And I don't think this works. I don't think this works at all for this season. Now, that's a little bit of a narrative-based judgment on my part, but there's another method to the madness here with the Giants in that last year they won 77 games. 38 of them were by one run. They were 38-16 in one-run games. One of the best records in one-run games dating back over the last 30 years. So they were already, a regression candidate. They were already a team I was looking to go against for a variety of different reasons. Now they make this Kapler hire, and look, they lost the majority of that bullpen from last year. Will Smith is gone. Mark Melanson is gone. Sam Dyson is gone. They've lost a lot of key pieces here from that bullpen. Ray Black, a hard thrower. Reyes Moranta had surgery. They lost a lot of pieces from a bullpen that was the strongest part of that roster last year. Half of their wins by one run, and now this bullpen decimated by losses. They don't hit enough. This is not a good offense. They do not hit well at home at Oracle Park, and they don't hit overly well on the road either. You lose Madison Bumgarner. You're trying to replace those innings with Johnny Cueto. Look, I love Johnny Cueto, and Johnny Cueto was such an underrated guy for such a long period of time. But he's like 4 years removed now from being a good starting pitcher. And now he's coming off of major surgery. That's a big worry here. Kevin Gausman's a guy that could pitch well at Oracle Park, but by and large, I don't like this rotation. I don't like this bullpen. I don't think there's any upside to this Giants team. This is a transitional year for them across the board. because some of these older guys are going to start aging out. They're going to start losing some of these big contracts. They've signed every platoon bat under the sun in hopes of buying some prospects here at the trade deadline. There's just not enough to like about this Giants team. And again, this Kapler dynamic, I think, is very, very difficult to figure out. I don't think it goes well for them. I think this is a team that has a lot of adversity throughout the course of the season. They're also not a deep team. And furthermore, unlike some of these bad teams that are out there in Major League Baseball, they don't have a good farm system. They do not have help coming from below. They do not have reinforcements they can rely on in the second half. This is a fade team. This is a fade season under for the San Francisco Giants here. Under the 69.5 is what I'm looking at here for the bottom feeder in the National League West. So there's the 5 and Fly segment there, coming in way under 25 minutes for the National League West here on today's show. Go back and listen to the previous iterations of the Bettor's Box, where I talked about the AL East, AL Central, AL West, NL East, and NL Central in that 5 and Fly segment. And like I said here, coming up on Thursday's show, I will talk about which spring training stats matter and some of the other information I've kind of come around to here in my lead up to the Major League Baseball season. With that, we take a look at some spring training injuries to talk about here. A big one for the Houston Astros, Justin Verlander getting some additional testing for a triceps issue. Now, Verlander is a guy that has battled a groin problem over the last couple of years. This one allegedly with the triceps. This is the one guy the Astros cannot afford to lose. They've already lost Garrett Cole. They're already going with some hopes and prayers in the rest of this rotation. Verlander would be an enormous loss for this team. Now, again, I think offensively they're good enough to win a lot of games. I haven't played their win total one way or another from a betting standpoint. Did play the Astros over in the Westgate season wins contest. So that's concerning, because if Verlander is out for a long time, that is really dramatically going to hurt the ceiling for this Houston Astros team. Willie Calhoun, an ugly scene over the weekend for the Texas Rangers, hit in the face by a fastball, broken jaw for him, fractured jaw. Not good at all. You know, for those that are talking about people wanting guys to throw against or throw at the Astros, this is why that's terrifying. Because, yeah, maybe they stole signs and cheated or whatever. You don't want to see guys hit in the face with 95, 96 mile per hour fastballs. So Calhoun out for an indefinite period of time. We'll see how long this takes. The Rangers, not a team I liked anyway, a low ceiling team, but obviously any injury for any bit of time is concerning for them. We send our best to Trey Mancini of the Baltimore Orioles. An imminent non-baseball procedure. That's always very, very scary, to say the least. You think about, and obviously I don't want to speculate here, you think about things like a Carlos Carrasco, like a Jameson Taillon, who had to have testicular cancer surgery a few years ago. Certainly you hope it's not something like that for Mancini. No timetable for him. The best offensive player on a bad Baltimore team. So obviously we're certainly be paying attention to this one, but also wishing the best there for Trey Mancini. Matt Schumacher, how about how good he's looked here for the Toronto Blue Jays so far? A guy that, you know, when he's healthy, has been a very, very competent Major League Baseball pitcher. The problem is Matt Schumacher has not been healthy very often. We'll see if he is here this year, but I'm liking this Toronto Blue Jays team more and more with each passing day. And if a guy like Schumacher is going to be healthy, that's a really, really big deal for them. The hits just keep coming for the New York Yankees, man. Aaron Judge with a stress fracture in his rib. I did flip to the under in the Westgate season wins pool for the Yankees based on everything that's been happening here over the last few weeks for them. When it comes to the guide, I will grade the guide against the picks at the time of publish, but just want to let you know that I'm not on the Yankees over here. And if I had to play it as I did for the Westgate pool, at this point, I'm probably looking at the under, because it's just injury after injury for them. Now you got Gary Sanchez dealing with some back issues. That's never a good thing for a catcher. Can't really DH because guys like Judge and Stanton are going to do that. So the Yankees, a lot of concerning developments for them here over the course of spring training. Elbow soreness for Carlos Carrasco. Oscar Mercado also sprained his wrist for the Indians since we last talked on Thursday. Carrasco is a past Tommy John guy, had leukemia last year, as we know. Like Clevenger already on the shelf. Very, very rough spring for the Indians, who just don't have a high margin for error, to say the least. Hopefully, Carrasco's going to be okay. Hopefully, they're erring on the side of caution here, but it has not been a good spring training for the Cleveland Indians. Finally, Andrew Miller. No feel for his pitches. They don't know what the problem is. They've done some testing. They can't seem to figure it out. It looks right now like a very sad ending for Andrew Miller, who is one of the most dominant relievers I've ever seen. Back-to-back ERAs over 4. Now he doesn't have a feeling for his pitches. He's a guy that he'll hang around because he's a lefty with a track record, but it's sad to see what's happening here. And again, it just speaks to bullpens, relievers, the volatility of them, and of course these big, high, heavy workloads that a lot of these pitchers wind up having. So hopefully a lot of good thoughts here in today's edition of the Bettor's Box. Adam at BangTheBook.com if you want the notes for the segment. And again, no full show on Thursday, but I will have another edition of the Bettor's Box coming your way.